We continue our simulated offseason by spending some of that sweet, sweet cap money on free agents.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at the Reef, also the co-host of Locked On NHL. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network, we cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow along wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. And today we're getting to spend some of that sweet, sweet fake money as we continue our off-season, simulated off-season here. So Monday, right, we took care of our own guys, made some trades. Tuesday, we did a full 7-round mock draft. And then today, because July 1st comes after the draft, we get to spend some of the free agents. So we've done a lot of homework here, looked at all these players, see who kind of, I think, makes a lot of sense for the Sharks, plus my initial 23-man roster. So before we get to all that, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. All right. So just as a reminder, simulated off season here, not this is my combination of what I think Mike Grier would do, or if I was Mike Grier, what I would do, knowing what we know about Mike Grier and what we want to do. And my whole goal is for this kind of, exercise here, especially with free agency, is just kind of raise the level of talent, but also keeping in flexibility of knowing players are going to start to graduate here soon. So that was kind of what I was thinking about throughout the whole time, is just try to add some NHL caliber players. And I think we've done that with some of the moves that we've made, right? Including trading for Mason Marchment, which we did on Monday's episode for a 3rd round and a 4th round pick. And he's going to slot in at the second line wing for us. Get just trading for Brzelcyk, who's I think a good NHL backup goalie. Gives Askarov some, it gives Askarov the runway, and if to be the guy, and if Brzelcyk needs to step in for a couple games and stuff, Brzelcyk can definitely handle that. So let's start with the forward group, because this is the area where I think you have to be the most careful with, right? Of the adding players, but not kind of boxing yourself in, especially with, guys like Quentin Musty and Igor Chernyshov and, eventually Michael Misa, hopefully you want to add players who can kind of play up a little bit, but long-term you feel can slide down when some of these younger guys can come in, or in a specific case, maybe adding a guy who fits right now and could fit long-term. So let's start with that part of it. Is I pulled out the offer sheet. And this is a guy, as we did the offer sheet episode a few weeks ago. And as I've thought about it more and more, I think this one makes a lot of sense. And with the offer sheet, the Sharks have a window that we kind of explored, but I'll just kind of bring it up again. So you want to, if you're the San Jose Sharks, right, you don't want to spend, basically it's like 4.8 million AAV per season, or 4.6, I believe is the number. So anything over that per AAV, you have to give up your 2026 first round pick unprotected. I don't know about you, but and especially what's supposed to be a pretty sick draft class, I'm not giving up that 2026 first round pick. And even with the Sharks expected to be better, that's still one of the best assets the San Jose Sharks have, right? like projected top 10 pick and what's going to be a sick class in the 2026 class. So I wanted to find a guy who I thought would fit what the Sharks are trying to do here, fit the timeline, add some more scoring punch. And I started with Jack Quinn. So Jack Quinn, former first-round pick of the Buffalo Sabres, is a UFA. He's 23, turns 24 in September. Last season, 74 games, 15 goals, 24 assists, 39 points. Guy who, though, was coming off a major injury the year before. We only played 27 games. So he scored 40 goals in basically 180 NHL games. But again, like before he got hurt, he was he looked like he was turning into a dude. Like he had 9 goals in 27 games before his injury in the 23-24 season. 24-25, like I said, kind of coming back from the injury. So you feel like he's ready to kind of return to form here. So he was projected when I, kind of doing this exercise again, he was projected to sign a 2-year deal at 3.2. So I went a little over. Again, you got to entice him. So I offered him a 2-year deal at $4 million a year. Boom. Assuming the Sabres don't match that, right? We know the Sabres are kind of going through a weird phase right now, and who knows what the Sabres are doing. But 2 years, $4 million. The Sharks have a ton of cap space. Gives him a chance to kind of come in. He's still an RFA after that. You control his rights, and you're getting a first-round pick guy who can come in and is going to get an opportunity to play top 6 minutes for you, and I think could be a legitimate 20-goal scorer for you. And at $4 million, I think, again, the Sharks' biggest asset they have this offseason is cap space, and it's only for 2 years. So if it doesn't work out, wash your hands of it. He holds down a spot while you wait for guys like Chernyshov to become kind of full-time NHL players, or Quentin Musty, or whomever else to be like a 2-year deal from him doesn't prohibit you from doing anything else or letting your young guys come in. So that's the first move I made. July 1st, offer sheet, Jack Hughes. The second forward, so the actual forward I signed is Pius Suter. So the center, he of course is a known for his defensive acumen, and a guy who I've been a fan of for a long time. And I really wanted to. One of my big goals this offseason is to really kind of revamp that third line, and I think Pius Suter would be a huge asset in that. And again, like he's a player who, if you need him to play fourth line minutes, he would be amazing playing fourth line center. If you need him to come up and play second line center for a little bit, he can do, like, he's a guy who can kind of move up and down your roster and be able to contribute for you. Guy coming off 25 goals, right? 21 assists in 81 games last year for 46 points, playing with the Canucks while playing 17 and a half minutes a night. He can play. He's very good defensively. He can play, big minutes for you. Play in all situations. He's going to help the PK out a lot as well. All right, so he was a guy who was projected at 4 years at 4.3. And again, I'm adding the bad team tax. You got to overpay a little bit. So I went 4.5. Same ballpark, right? With him. So those are the two forwards I added. So you also added Mason Marchment on Monday. You added Pius Suter, and then you added Jack Quinn. So you added some definite toughness in Mason Marchment. You added a guy who can, definitely help the defensive aspect among the forward group in Pius Suter, and you added a definite kind of upside type of player in Jack Quinn, who's on a very low risk, high reward type of play. Like, I think he's a low risk, high reward type of player. So again, we'll go through the full 23-man roster, but those were the additions. And again, I wanted to make sure there's still flexibility so young players will have opportunities. I didn't want to try to lock anybody in. And I think Mike Grier is going to continue to take this kind of medium-term approach just to try to, again, just raise the talent level. And I think all three of these guys would definitely raise the talent level of the San Jose Sharks for this season. So we're going to switch to the back end here in a minute and look at some of the additions I made back there. So we'll get to that in just 1 second. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. It looks like Halliburton might be done, so maybe OKC ends this thing in Game 6. If they do, I have a feeling SGA is going to have a very nice night. So if you're new to FanDuel, it's a perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, before we continue, do of course want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. If you haven't yet, perfect time to subscribe. Even though we're finishing up our simulated off season here, we still got plenty of content, right? We're going to be focusing on the draft, especially next week. We're going to have the Michael Misa big profile. Next week is usually a huge transactional week as teams gear up for the draft. So we'll have you covered no matter what happens. Of course, we have the draft. We got the draft coming up. So plenty of fun stuff. So make sure you follow along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. All right. So let's shift to the back end. Added 2 defensemen, and I did sign another goalie. So let's start with that. So, right, we re-signed 2 of our own guys in Georgi Romanov and between Georgi Romanov and Gabe Carrier, we added 2 guys to the Barracuda, but just wanted to add another kind of, I always call it the Aaron Dell role, that like third goalie where if you need him to come up and play NHL games in a pinch, it's not going to be the end of the world. He can start in the AHL. He's been a veteran. I just signed Chris Driedger, who's a guy who has played a lot of NHL games, played a lot of AHL games. If he comes up and has to play, for a couple weeks in the NHL, he's not going to embarrass you. Like, it's not going to be the end of the world type of situation. So, and I think he's, as a veteran, I think it would be a good spot for him to help some of the younger guys in Romanoff and Gabe Carrier. And then if you need him to play in the NHL for a little bit, if Brossoit tweaks his knee, or if Askarov gets hurt or anything like that, he can hold down the fort for you. So we signed him, gives you a little bit of insurance, right? So that way you have five goalies under contract, NHL contract. He would have to go through waivers, but we'll figure that out then. So, that's goalie situation. I feel good about where the goalies are. Still, that flexibility is that key term. You gives Askarov some runway, and I think there's a strong veteran presence between both Chris Driedger and between Brossoit. I think having 2 guys that are kind of been there, done it with perfect guys to have around. So, all right, let's switch over to the defensemen. So, full transparency, like Dante Fabro was one of the first signings I tried to make, right? But with the news that it sounds like they're working towards a contract extension, and we don't know, right? Like, teams are always working towards stuff and always trying to work, and sometimes it'll fall through and sometimes they work it out. But I took them off my board right now with the news that it sounds like they're working towards something. So, because if he was available, would definitely try to sign him, but keep it in the same, that flexibility, not trying to big game hunt so like Ekblad and, some of the other big names. Like, I don't think Grier is going to be doing that for some of those type of players right now. So again, trying to just raise the level of NHL caliber talent, I guess, as we were trying to call it. The first player I signed was Matt Grzelcyk. So Grzelcyk is a player who is projected to sign at 3 years at $3.5 million. I signed him for 3 years at $3.75 million. So again, having a little bit of an overpay, not much, but a little bit of an overpay. You have to pay because you're a bad team and you're going to be playing on a bad team tax, right? But we want you to come here and help kind of establish the culture, all that fun stuff. So Grzelcyk coming off the 1 year deal at $2.75 million. Not the greatest season with the Penguins last year, but did have 40 points, which the Sharks could definitely use some more points and his puck moving ability and stuff. But, if he can continue that point output, and then I think maybe some more of the puck moving and defensive metrics that we saw from him and kind of the 21 22 23 21 through 23 seasons with Boston Bruins. I think this could be a really nice signing for the Sharks. Is again, you're trying to just find some puck moving defensemen and some guys who can help just raise the level of defensive ability on the blue line, and I think Grzelcyk would 100% do that for them. So the other move I made is I signed the analytics whiz himself in Nick Perbix. So Perbix was expected to sign a deal. It's a pretty similar deal. So he was expected to sign a deal at 4 years, though, at $3.3 million. Is a little bit younger, right, at age 27. So I signed him to a, again, 4-year deal, 3.5. I think he's going to be a player that's probably highly sought after. And yes, I know maybe not the most, like, doesn't use the size as much as you'd like for a player as big as he is, but again, right, we're trying to find some help here. So Nick Perbix is the two. So two guys who, I think those contracts, like 3 years for Grzelcyk. Yes, he'll be, 34, 35 by the time that contract expires. But I think his services in the next 2 years, like I think 2 of those 3 years should be really solid. And even if he kind of slides down a little bit, by the 3rd year, I don't think it's going to age super, super poorly. And Perbix, I think a 4-year deal, like that's going to get him right through his age 31, 32 season. And maybe he can be that kind of, again, bridge, kind of bridge defenseman, especially, going to get some power play opportunity. And while you wait for some of your younger guys, or you wait to make some bigger moves or whatever else the Sharks have planned to kind of really revamp. But I think it's a solid way to inject some more talent into this defensive roster that definitely needs it. So those are the 2 moves I made defensively for San Jose is Grzelcyk and Perbix, and then of course we signed Chris Driedger to be the 3rd goalie, AHL goalie. And if you kind of the first call up, if you need some help in net on the NHL team. So where does that leave us? Who's on the roster? So here I will show my 23-man roster, kind of talk you through it, how I have all the lines, et cetera, et cetera. We'll talk through it here in just 1 second. All right. Do want to thank you, of course, for making a Locked On Sharks your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There's no off season. We bring you daily league-wide stories that matter the most, but local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. All right. 23-man roster. So I have 13 forwards, 8 defensemen, 2 goalies on my kind of simulated opening night roster. If you're watching on YouTube, here it is. William Eklund, Celebrini, Tower Toffoli is your first line. Mason Marchment, Will Smith, Jack Quinn, your third line. Alex Wenberg, Pius Suter, Colin Graf is your third line. Barclay Goodrow, Ty Dellinger, Nikolai Kovalenko, your fourth, with Carl Grundstrom as your extra. And of course, Logan Couture's $8 million contract hanging out in IR. Defensively, couldn't get the left, right. But we have Mukko Madulin and Grzelcyk as your top pairing. Ferraro, Perbix as your second pair. Good old Sam Dickinson, Timothy Liljegren on your third pair, with Vlasic and Desharnais as your extras, with Askarov and Brossoit in net. This right here would get you at $78.485 million with a projected cap space of $17 million with a roster of 23 and 23. So we're clear over the cap floor. We have plenty of cap space to be flexible if something happens. If the Sharks want to take on a right, they can be a middleman, whatever. Like, it gives you plenty of flexibility. You have Sam Dickinson. So let's start with Dickinson, right? So I think Dickinson gets a shot, at least to start the season. And if Dickinson plays well, cool. He stays up for the rest of the season. If he doesn't, and you send him back to the OHL and say, go cook those children for another year, we'll see you soon. Then you still have Vlasic, you still have Desharnais, who can both play, come in. You can also bring up Jack Thompson or Luca Cagnoni. Like, you have plenty of guys who are going to be ready to kind of fill that slot. Or you can bring up another forward and go 14 forwards and 7 defensemen. So et cetera, et cetera. I think with this roster, it gives you some flexibility where nobody is kind of, I don't want to say secure in their position, but like, it gives you support in places. So if maybe Will Smith, we try him out at center, not a great fit right now. Okay, cool. You can put Will Smith back on the wing. You can put Wenberg back at center. If you want to have Wenberg as your 2C, Pius Suter as your 3C, or if you want Suter at 2C, Wenberg at 3C, it gives you some options there. You have Mason Marchment, who can play second line center. He can play third line, or second line winger. He can play third line. You have the same thing with Colin Graf. Like, if Graf's been playing well, you can move him up. If Jack Quinn's not working out, you can kind of move or Cam Lund's playing really well in the AHL. We want to get him up in there. Like, you have options. Or, Kovalenko's not working out. Okay, cool. Carl Grundstrom's not playing well. Whatever, like Ty Dellinger, any of those guys in the bottom, it's not going to be in the world if you have to move them down or move them out of the lineup. And I think you have enough players who can kind of fit different roles where, again, that flexibility in your roster of, okay, if I want to bring up Cam Lund or a Chernyshov or Quentin Musty catches on fire or whatever or Phil B said deserves a call up, you have plenty of flexibility with your roster here. So I feel like this team, again, it's not going to be the sexiest offseason, and maybe Mike Grier's got way more aggressive stuff up his sleeve, right? I was trying to be a little bit more conservative of what I think from what we've heard from Grier, right? I don't want to spend big, right? I don't want to do all that stuff. We just want to start building. I think this follows that pattern of we're building here, and you still have, right? You still have next year's first. You still have the Oilers first. Yes, you lost your second round pick, but you have players who are going to be on expiring contracts. So if you want to, I don't think they're going to be the aggressive burn it all down type of scenario. But if someone asks for Ferraro or Liljegren or Wenberg or even Mason Marchment, all those players, or even like a Ty Dellinger, all those players are potential realistic trade pieces where if the Sharks wanted to trade them at the trade deadline, because, we expect this team to, again, kind of be in the bottom 10. All those guys, I think, can get you some sort of assets. I know March Schmidt's got some trade protections. We know Wenberg has some trade protections, but like all those guys would get you solid assets where you can maybe help replenish that second round pick you lost in the Jack Quinn. And I think Jack Quinn provides a lot of upside for you. And yes, I know he's coming off an injury, but now a full season away from the injury, been able to kind of work, have a normal off season this off season. And how often do we see guys leave Buffalo and then explode? And I think Jack Quinn, would be a great opportunity for the Sharks if they could potentially pull that one off. So, again, this team isn't going to like this. I don't think this is a playoff team, right? But I feel better, especially lines 1, 2, and 3. I feel like there's some scoring pop. I feel like there's some opportunity. I don't feel like it's going to be a one-line team like we saw last year, like a 1.5 line team. I feel like there's all three. I feel like the top 9 definitely give you some opportunity to score some more goals this year. Defensively, right, you would hope that you continue to see some growth from Luka Badulin, and then just having a guy like Grzelcyk, kind of come in and stabilize things. You hope Perbix, his skills translate, his puck moving translates. And then, like I said, if Sam Dickinson sticks, that's awesome. If not, I think the Sharks have some options, and they've insulated themselves in case there's some injuries. You've got plenty of guys who are gonna deserve an opportunity who are with the Barracuda. And I just think the biggest thing, the goaltending is just gonna be a lot better, especially post Blackwood from what we saw, right? And I think with Askarov in net, and I like Brissois, and I think Chris Driedger is a solid third option if you need to bring him up because of an injury. And then even Georgi Romanov, who's played, got a handful of NHL games here and there. There's some options for you. So I think this is, if you want to kind of take a step next season, not be the absolute worst team in the NHL. I think this roster would head you in the right direction while still giving you long-term flexibility and allowing your stars to grow into their roles. And that's what I think we're focusing on, right? Letting Celebrini grow into his role as a number 1C, letting Will Smith grow into his role as a 2C or, a first line, whatever you want to do it with Will Smith, right? Especially with Michael Misa. Chernyshov, Musty, there's definitely opportunities for them to come in and claim a job. Camlin, an opportunity for him to eventually kind of come in and claim a job. There's room for, and even defensively, right? Luca Cagnoni continues the way he's going. If Dickinson that just continues to do what Dickinson, there's none of those guys in front of them are holding some of these young guys from taking a job. So yeah, that's kind of the meat and potatoes. So we'll be back tomorrow, where we're going to kind of just, again, nice review. And then we're going to kind of project ahead and look at where what the Sharks would need to focus on in the future. Spoiler, defense still. How much cap flexibility they'll still have with all the projected moves I made. And so plenty of great stuff still coming along. So make sure you're following along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at My Fry Hole. Till tomorrow. Bye, friends.